He took his social media down, he took his website down, and yet is claiming to Josh that he's still running. Is that right, Josh? Can you comment on this?
But allegedly, according to my sources, he is still running.
Well, according to my sources, Elliot Payne has disappeared him, which is what happens when you run up North Korea numbers on your opponent.
We're rolling. We're rolling.
Calling all cat people. This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.
Do you like Larry's costume, Taylor?
Yes, it's a very good surprise.
Welcome to the Wedge Live podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards. Cue the NFL on Fox theme music here. Let's go. That's right. This is the Minneapolis convention season halftime show. 7 wards have held their DFL convention so far. We have city council endorsements in 5 of them. 6 more wards to go, plus the city convention. Joining me for analysis of the action so far, we have Josh Martin, Taylor Dahlin, and America's favorite pundit meat squeezed through a tubular casing, Hot Dog Larry Jacobs, a.k.a. Jason Garcia. Thank you all for being there. I don't know if that was too loud. Was that too loud for everyone?
A little.
I'll fix
pretty loud.
Sorry about that. I had to scream over it too because it was just that loud, but I can fix that. We've learned a lot. I was waiting to do an episode like this because I didn't feel like I knew anything because nothing had happened. We've gotten some feedback from delegates, which as much as people complain about caucuses and conventions, like this is a good proxy for how good of a campaign you're running, how good of a candidate you are. You are convincing people to support you. If you win by 70+% at a DFL convention, that is a good sign you are running a winning campaign. As much as people complain like, oh, it's so unfair, it's terrible, I hate this. I agree with you, I hate it, it's awful, but it also is a good proxy and a good exercise in running an election. So We Heart Minneapolis falling flat so far. Bad candidates. I think they are stuck in the crank bubble, out of step with their wards. The anti-DSA hysteria not working. Does anyone else have big picture thoughts? Who would like to go first?
Yeah, I'll just, the one thing that scares me about that is that we've kind of had their clunker wards so far. We love Minneapolis. Like, I'm most scared of what they're going to do in 7 and 10.
I agree. I would say 7 and 5. 5 has already happened, ended with no endorsement. I think in the general election, I think 7 and 5 are key wards that if you're looking where to focus your money and volunteer time, just throw it all at 7 and 5 because anything could happen in those, and that's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. I agree 10 is competitive for the DFL process, maybe less competitive in the general election. Josh. Can you talk? You've been parliamentarian at every convention I've gone to. Are you allowed to say
every
anything?
Convention. Well, I'm going to be careful about what I say, certainly about any convention where I'll be serving as chair parliamentarian that hasn't happened yet, since I definitely need to keep my neutral hat on for those. Even for conventions that are over, there is a period of time for a challenge that can be filed with the DFL, and that period has not closed yet, and particularly in Ward 2 with how contentious it has been, I can't rule out that possibility, so okay, I don't want to be showing my cards too much there yet. Okay. But I haven't been parliamentarian at every convention. You know,
everyone I've been to, it seems like you have been the one protecting us from a melee.
You know, there's a limited number of people that kind of do this sort of thing. I think I was just saying earlier today that it's like the same half dozen people we find to try to be chair and parliamentarian in every convention in the city. So we should work in expanding our group of people that we have, because Dan Thomas Cummins and I can't be everywhere in the city at once.
So when you go back and forth with Charlie Ryback advocating for caucuses and conventions, you are biased because this is basically the only time every 4 years that you are actually useful. All the rest of the time, what is Josh Martin good for?
Point of order. We've had elections the past 2-year cycles. So Josh has actually done this every 2 years.
He is useful recently. Every 2 years. See, break glass in case of emergency, bring out the Josh Martin. It is his time to shine.
Well, and we have non-municipal elections as well. So really, like, every year has been an election year in Minneapolis for quite some time. Right. Well, we finally get a year off in 2027.
Okay. Once every year you can be useful, Josh. I will grant you that. We've gone from every 4 to once every year.
I'll take it. I worked my way up.
Hot dog?
I think having attended 3 of the 7 conventions so far, one that lasted 45 minutes, one that lasted 6 hours.
Is it still going?
It could be. There could still be people there. I would have to say that the only thing that's really surprised me is the way that We Love Minneapolis has blanketed every convention. I've seen people from that organization each time, to lesser or greater effectiveness, I would say. But they definitely have a lot of people, a lot of staff. And also, I'm a little disappointed in many of our citywide candidates who show up to each of these and repeat the same speeches. Like, nothing is tailored to their audiences. It's all just throwing the same things out. So I want to give a special shout out to Reverend Dr. Dwayne Davis, who actually does switch up his stump speeches at conventions.
Oh, give me an example of that, hot dog. Like, what is he saying in like Ward 5 as opposed to Ward 12?
Well, I mean, that's an easy one because he lives in Ward 5.
Right.
So he talks a little bit, more specifically about where he lives in the ward, his connections to Ward 5, how he's proud to be from there and wants to represent Ward 5 in city government as the mayor. Whereas in Ward 12, he definitely touches on some similar things in terms of his biography, where he grew up, what it was like as the child of a minister and a kindergarten teacher. But I've noticed that he is actually, like, outside of that general structure. He adds details. Some things he highlights more or less. And I think, obviously the man's a very competent and practiced public speaker. So I think that's a good sign that he is able to do that, as opposed to some of the other candidates who literally repeat word for word the exact same speeches.
So Taylor brings up an excellent point. If you're on the progressive side, it's been a sweep in terms of places where you thought maybe this is competitive. Progressives are like romping so far, but, and this is Taylor's point, like the most fertile ground for competition is maybe yet to come in Ward 7 with Katie Cashman, the incumbent, running against Elizabeth Schaefer, the Fry Pack supported challenger, and then Ward 10 where Lydia Millard is the Fry Pack supported challenger going up against Chugtai. But let's set the stage for listeners maybe. So We Heart Minneapolis has said they're going to spend $600,000 just on the convention season trying to elect Fry-aligned council candidates.
Unclear of how much of that will go to funding lawsuits.
Oh, you expect some of that to go to lawsuits. I would say the money is not working. What they're doing is not working. They've got a lot of chirping in the gallery, a lot of paid staff at these conventions. In Ward 2 was the perfect venue for that because it was so it's a theater, and so it's like built for height instead of having you spread out and like in a linear fashion in a school auditorium. It's like circular, and it goes up so high, and you're close to everyone, and you can hear all the chirping from We Heart Minneapolis staff at how frustrated they are about how things are going, even though they kicked out 59 of the Wansley supporting delegates for being just evil, dirty socialists who are bad for the DFL. Does anybody else hear that? What is that? Taylor, do you hear that?
Yeah, that's weird. What is that sound?
Oh my God, I know what that is.
What is that?
It's Brian Strahan having North Korea numbers run up on him in Ward 1 again.
Oh, no. Oh, Brian Strahan. What were you thinking? Maybe it's Strawn. I never quite got how to pronounce it.
It is
that. Strawn.
Do you want to do this skit again?
No, it's okay if we don't pronounce his name. So that was a real lopsided one, a head scratcher. I don't know why one of the several All of Minneapolis and We Heart Minneapolis candidates where I don't know why they're running. It's not going well for them. I feel bad. Like it went so bad for him that I feel bad, even though I'm not all that enthusiastic about his campaign. I just feel bad. Who else? Was anyone else in Ward 1?
I was.
Do you have any reactions, Taylor?
Yeah, I thought, it was not, I just remember the way that he would he could really only say one thing, and it was like more units. That was the solution to everything. More units.
Right. And I like that.
Well,
I'm into that, but it came off in a NIMBY way because he was also like, gotta build, but also, why don't we have more parking requirements? And transit isn't good enough for us to be building more housing. It was very like concern trolley message, like half YIMBY, half NIMBY, and none of it made sense to me.
And he just honestly didn't seem into it himself. Towards the end, I mean, so obviously he doesn't live there. He couldn't be a delegate. He had a floor pass, but instead of using it, he was just kind of hanging out in the visitor section most of the time. And then at one point when like the results were being tallied, I guess someone said he was just watching like concert videos on Reddit on his phone. So just the heart's not in it. And, now his website is down and people claim he's still running, but it seems to be over.
He took his social media down, he took his website down, and yet is claiming to Josh that he's still running. Is that right, Josh? Can you comment on this?
So secondhand, so his website is completely down now. For a while, it was just the brianstrawn.org URL just went to Google. But if you went to the like Squarespace page, you could still find it. But that is now also down.
Oh.
But allegedly, according to my sources, he is still running. I have not seen much evidence of that, but this is what I am told.
Well, according to my sources, Elliot Payne has disappeared him, which is what happens when you run up North Korea numbers on your opponent. Do we have anything else to say about Ward 1?
I wondered if there was like there was a troll in the audience who made these buttons that featured Brian Strahan. It's like a Mean Girls meme, and it was like, Brian doesn't even go here. And he was handing them out. And then at some point throughout the convention, an updated version was produced featuring the same Brian, but wearing the same sweater he was wearing.
Right. They colored in a little design to match what he was actually wearing on the day.
Yeah. So there were two different buttons people were wearing that said like, Brian basically doesn't even live here. And I was like, oh, that's got to be kind of humiliating. Apparently also Michael Rainville recruited him. Kind
of a couple of doofy older white guy. I don't even think he's that old. Am I right? He's like mid-40s. He comes off as somebody who's about Rainville's age, but I think he's much younger. And so I was going to say something else about Ward 1. I forget.
It's like 45.
Okay. He's not much older. He's younger than Hot Dog.
Yeah. I would be embarrassed if that was what I was spending my time doing. And that comes from somebody who spent 6 hours yesterday at the Ward 5 convention and is currently recording a podcast in a hot dog costume.
Yes, it's the hot dog thing. Like you were calling shame on someone else and wearing wearing the hot dog costume. And Josh, you can't say anything about this because you were on stage doing DFL stuff.
Oh, Ward 1.
Yeah.
I should refrain from comment. I think Ward 1 is perhaps in less danger of a challenge than Ward 2, but just to be safe.
We're moving on to Ward 4. Traditionally very low turnout. Latricia Vital was endorsed at the Ward 4 DFL convention. Taylor is our correspondent from Ward 4. What are your thoughts?
It was a very strange moment to arrive and be insisted that I be given a floor pass as an observer. Mm-hmm. I tried telling the credentials team, I can't have this, I'm just here to watch. They gave me it. They kept telling me to have it. And then there was a moment where a large group of pro-Vita demonstrators paraded around with anti-Marvina signs, maybe enabled by the lax passing out of badges. So that was a weird moment. But, Marvina had, I don't know, it was like North Korea style numbers for Vita, unfortunately.
Do I have to play the North Korea song again?
You don't like this.
Okay.
Yeah, Marvina just, she has like people who support her, but it's just not enough of a backing, unfortunately, which is too bad because the ward, I think, deserves someone new in.
You showed me some of the signs, and it was kind of vicious, the signs. Like, that doesn't really happen at DFL conventions where you have signs making fun of one of the candidates.
Yeah, they had photoshopped Marvina's face on someone else's mugshot. The woman parading it around, or one of the women doing it, was Bobby Joe Champion's sister, Nona Champion, who I guess someone told me has a criminal record herself, while Marvina's never been arrested.
Right.
So a lot going on there.
What I know about Marvina Haynes is that she is the devoted sister of a man who was exonerated, wrongfully convicted.
Yeah.
And I don't know, has always behaved on TV. Whenever I see her on TV, because it's constantly in the news, just advocating for her brother and smart and eloquent about it, and just a person who behaves with grace. I don't know. Maybe she's just worthy of all of this hate, but Ward 4 seems like a particularly nasty place for politics.
Yeah, I think that's, the Barb, coming from Barb Johnson, and then it's kind of how Vita runs things, and so that's just kind of enabled. The Sergeant at Arms was also just very confused and thought these people were pro-Marvina, and so it was just like, oh, you can come back when she's speaking, and they're just like, fuck Marvina, and then he's like, oh yeah, you gotta get out of here. It's like,
to Taylor's point, I would definitely say, going back to the Barb Johnson days, Ward 4 politics have been particularly vicious in a personal way that you don't see in a lot of other wards, that you're maybe starting to see a little bit more of now, especially with, people like Becca Thompson, who, was a beneficiary of the Barb machine when she got elected to Park Board. But also, if you look at the vile treatment that Philippe Cunningham received after winning his election to replace Barb Johnson, just absolutely things that nobody should ever be subjected to. And I think that's part of why Ward 4 struggles to find candidates to run, is because they look at people, you bring this up a lot, John, normal people who are good human beings don't want to subject themselves to that sort of thing. And when Philippe Cunningham, who is a great human being, did, he was subjected to just awful treatment. And I think that was designed to be a lesson to other people who wanted to run against the power establishment there.
Sometimes I wonder if that explains the very low quality of candidate that the fry packs are turning up here. Just remarkably not, a lot of them just not plausible to me at all. And maybe there's just a very, very diminishing pool of people who are willing to put themselves through this. Josh, do you have any broader commentary on the quality of the candidates that we're seeing in Minneapolis this year?
I think it remains correct that the We Love Minneapolis, all of Minneapolis world seems to struggle with recruiting high quality candidates. And in particular, I think, as you said, John, at the beginning, like finding candidates that fit the particulars of the ward, rather than running just kind of the same flavor of candidate everywhere.
Right. We've kind of nationalized is the wrong word, but you know how we've nationalized elections in this country where people aren't running to local concerns. It's like we have Republicans and Democrats. They all say the same stuff. In Minneapolis, we have, I don't know what the word would be, municipalized every ward. And I hear a lot of the same stuff from the Fry Pack candidates. I hear Lagos Tacos from all of them, even if they don't represent the ward where Lagos Tacos is. What else are they all saying? Like,
A lot of them say, like, the candidates will be like, oh, I'm neutral on the mayor.
Right.
The recuperative care facility.
Yep, the care facility is just the insistence on the dangers of DSA connected candidates.
I have a sense they're all, and maybe this isn't true, but it seems like a group of people who are all hanging out in the same room, listening to the same half dozen people, and are not getting outside what I call the crank bubble to develop a broader, more appealing message. But Ward 4 does not look good. It looks like Latricia Vital is probably headed to re-election if there's not some better campaigning done there against her. Ward 5, Jason, you ran out of juice in Ward 5. It went on so long. Your backup battery just ran out.
Yeah, I was posting so much, my phone started overheating and drained the battery almost instantly. So I had to use my backup battery, and then after a couple of hours, that was depleted. It was definitely an adventure. In some ways, it reminded me of a Ward 9 convention from 10 years ago or so, where there's just uproar at random times and people intentionally or unintentionally misunderstanding the chair or the parliamentarians' rules. As a little bit of background, similar to Ward 4, Ward 5 is a part of the city that has historically not seen as much investment from the city itself or from the DFL. So there are existing people who have represented that area in city council or school board or things like that that still live in that area and play an outsized part in what goes on there. And because there has been sort of a vacuum of interest, it has allowed people who maybe aren't acting in good faith to step in and, assume leadership positions within the DFL as it relates to Ward 5 in terms of planning things and stuff like that. And also there are just a lot of people who have been historically disenfranchised from that area and don't have any guidance as to how to become involved. And when they go to a convention on a beautiful Sunday afternoon and it drags on and on and on, it tells them this isn't a place that I want to be. And there was even one candidate who stated that and withdrew his candidacy before we were even halfway through the convention, because he said he didn't feel like the DFL was a place for him, that, he wasn't being helped out with his candidacy. He wasn't given resources to help understand how to campaign and things like that. So, I think it's really unfortunate that Ward 5 has to deal with a lot of these things. But I will say that having 5 candidates who competed, all of them brought a decent turnout of delegates. There were nearly 200 delegates, which I know when your capacity is around 400, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a big turnout for a Ward 5 or Ward 4 convention. So it shows that there is an appetite. People want to be involved. People want to have a voice in what's going on. And it's unfortunate that they're being served in this way by the convention planners, by a chair who at times seemed very lost himself on what was going on. It was the first time I've ever seen a contested election for parliamentarian of a convention. So that was phenomenal to me. I mean, I hope people bring their own parliamentarians more often. Let's see Josh have to justify people voting for him sometime.
Yeah, bring it on.
Is this the part of the show where I play the Scott Graham deep breathing video?
I will say that Ward 7 was not sending its best with Scott Graham. Sending him to North Minneapolis was a very... He at one point referred to the audience as "you people," and
Right.
did not seem to understand what he'd done, and he just was incredibly dismissive, really not receptive towards the delegates struggling to like word things or understand what was happening. There's a lot he doesn't get right too, and then I was very embarrassed that he was cheering it to see him up there, because it was just like, with the "you people" line, it's just like, oh, this is like the least culturally competent person we could have sent to like North Minneapolis, a rich, out of touch Southwest Minneapolis guy.
Right, is sending Ward 7's bitchiest, most red-faced, most dismissive, most out-of-touch white guy to Ward 5 was maybe a mistake.
Yeah.
And so we have Pearl Warren and Etrophic Burnett coming out of there as the top two, but there was no endorsement. So
That's
again,
correct.
it's
Yep.
competitive. And also Reverend McAfee taking the stage and like refusing to leave. Is that just what he does no matter where he is? He's like refusing to leave?
After he was done, I really got the impression that he just wants attention to be on him. And in a way, it seemed like he was demanding fealty from the DFL, because he said things like, things are getting awfully close, but he didn't actually like threaten things. And he said a lot about, the things that we do for the DFL, but nobody reached out to me and things like that. So I think that's kind of what he wants. He couches it in a valid concern of, many people do rely on Sundays, particularly the first Sunday of the month, to be a day that they spend with their faith community and things like that. But he always brings it back to himself and how he's being disrespected, how he is not being deferred to in the way that he wants.
He wants to be the boss. I'm running this. Run this through me.
Yeah. But yeah, so we went to 3 ballots. In the end, there was no endorsement, which really seemed to frustrate the We Heart Minneapolis and Pearl Warren teams. They had a lot of chirping in the gallery, as you said. And in kind of an interesting turn, the final 3 candidates were Miles Wilson, Etrophic Burnett, and Pearl Warren. After the second ballot, when Miles was eliminated, they had a several-minute break. After the first ballot, we went immediately into second ballot. But after this one, they had a several-minute break where sources tell me that Jacob Fry himself called Miles to demand that when he gave his speech after being eliminated, that he endorse Pearl Warren. And Miles definitely did not look... I mean, obviously he wouldn't look happy, but he did look under duress, and he started the speech by saying, first of all, everyone should vote their conscience, but if it's got to be an endorsement, I endorse Pearl Warren.
But it doesn't got to be an endorsement. It never has
Right.
to be an endorsement. No endorsement is the...
Yes.
So it sounds, if not Fry, someone got in his ear and was like, well, it's going to be someone. You need to pick. You need to choose. Well, You could also tell your people, no endorsement here.
I'm told that it was Jacob Fry directly, and that Miles would lose all support if he didn't endorse Pearl. But following that, I did see many people who were on Miles's team and were his delegates whipping votes for no endorsement on the final round, which ultimately is what prevented a Pearl Warren endorsement, because they ended up with 17% no endorsement vote. If that 17% had gone to Pearl Warren, it would have been exactly the 60% that she needed.
And it's consistent with Miles saying something on stage and doing a different thing with his campaign.
And the reason I say maybe, Jason, is because I think there may have been some people voting no endorsement even before Miles dropped out. So not all of those may have been Miles people. Also, Scott Graham never gave us actual numbers. So these are rounded, so we don't know for sure, even if all of those had gone to Pearl, that it would have been 60.
Why are we not getting actual numbers?
Scott specifically stated that he didn't want us to be given actual numbers, that he only wanted to announce percentages. And when candidates were eliminated, he strongly encouraged them not to share how many delegates they had, because he made it sound as though that would be embarrassing to them. But then the fact that he continually kept denying giving actual numbers of delegates, only the percentages, it makes me feel like there was something going on there that he didn't want people to know.
It's so shady. Like, are percentages not embarrassing?
And this
percentages are embarrassing if they're that low.
Well, and he didn't even give exact percentages for the candidates who were dropped in the first round. He just said less than 15%.
What's going on here, Josh? You are our computer brain. You're our parliamentarian. Tell us what's happening.
Scott Graham.
Well, I don't know what went through Scott's head. It's very possible that, as he said, like, he wanted to not embarrass the candidates. This is not how I would run a convention. Under Roberts, you are supposed to give the actual results. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And certainly one of those reasons is if you don't give actual results, it has the appearance that there's something improper going on. And that may or may not be true. And I don't want to cast any aspersions on what happened on Ward 5. I'm not saying anything improper was going on, but it can create that appearance. And one of the reasons you give actual numbers is so you don't create that appearance. There's a lot of other valid reasons for why you give numbers. Like, if the numbers are very close, like, it might inform the delegates to, like, know whether they should try to ask for a recount or things of that nature. It informs, like, candidates and campaigns of how they did, and so they can plan their strategy for the future. So it's very odd. None of the other conventions have gone this way so far. Like, in my spreadsheet, I have like several tabs with actual numbers, and then I have one tab with some percentages, and then a bunch of question marks. So it certainly stands out.
Did we talk about how outrageous it was in Ward 2? I feel like we skipped past Ward 2 where all the delegates got kicked out who were identified as Wansley supporters because of this anti-DSA hysteria.
The Red Scare.
Including Park Commissioner Becky Alper, elected DFLer, stripped of her delegate status because they decided anyone identified as a Wansley supporter needs to go, even though they're actual Democrats. And Ward 2 has a history of supporting, having DFLers support non-DFLers for city council, like Cam Gordon, who was a Green Party council member for a number of years. Just incredibly outrageous. Josh, that's uncommon to have that many delegates just booted because they have the wrong politics?
So I have no comment on the merits of the Ward 2 convention decision.
That's right.
But I will say it is uncommon. I have not seen something like that before.
And if Wansley had run as a DFLer, she would have romped in Ward 2, like huge numbers. But she wasn't a candidate, and people came there to like do no endorsement because they want her on the city council, and they kicked a bunch out. Still, the Fry team didn't win.
It is a valid vote in every DFL convention. You can always vote no endorsement.
You can always decide these clunkers up on the stage, I don't like them, and I want somebody else. That's always a valid position to have. And then all those Wansley delegates got kicked out, unofficial Wansley delegates identified as Wansley supporters, because they didn't like any of their choices up on stage. That's a valid position to have.
Oh, and I have an update on Shelley. Well, Shelley actually has updated her registration, apparently, to say that she lives in the ward. She told someone that at the convention.
Oh. And she's another one with a homesteaded property in North Minneapolis.
Yep, and it's what's interesting about that. You saw Lene Palmisano was there at Ward 2.
I think if it had gone as a traditional convention, Palmisano may have gone up on stage and endorsed Shelley.
She was being sneaky. I took a picture of her and she hid behind the pole.
Yeah, I saw that. She did not want to be on camera with Shelley at the Ward 2 convention. She spotted Taylor and was like, nope, not going to be in this photo.
Who amongst us would not hide to avoid being in a picture with Shelley or Lene Palmisano?
Another funny thing, the Minneapolis from the Many, the Progressive PAC, put out a graphic that was like 25% of Shelley's donors are McDonald's franchise owners. I have not checked that. I don't know if that's true, but that's a hilarious thing to put on your attack graphic, that 25% of your financial support is coming from McDonald's franchise owners, which is weird. We're doing Ward 8. Josh, this is your ward. So Josh Martin lookalike Soren Stevenson is DFL endorsed. Does Soren Stevenson does he qualify for the North Korean national anthem? It was just shy of 70%. What do we think?
No, I think that's a little too close. I think it needs to be north of 80.
And specifically, it was 69%. So I just want to point that out, because a lot of staffers in the campaign are very proud of those numbers.
I'm playing the anthem. Soren Stevenson has been impressive to me, and I'm not saying this because I'm just like best friends with Soren Stevenson. He came on the podcast and gave some really well-crafted answers, like a very thoughtful, smart guy. I thought his police and public safety answer at the Ward 8 Q&A was like just perfect. It would have worked in Ward 7, which is a far more conservative ward. It's the kind of answer that would have worked there.
We need more police officers and we need more public safety workers in this city, period. The city this past year ended the year with more police officers than they did when they started, and that's the first time since the murder of George Floyd. Police officers in Minneapolis are the highest paid in the state and close to the highest paid in the country. And so we need to continue to be hiring more officers. But in the meantime, it takes years to get officers on the force. We need to be working on getting other responses up and running so that officers aren't working those 12-hour days. They're able to respond to the situations where they are needed, and other people who are specialized in domestic violence, in substance abuse, in behavioral crises, they're able to respond to those.
He's running a really good campaign, and I think he persuaded a lot of people at that convention. A lot of delegates were telling me they think minds were changed, and he may have gotten like closer to 60% if he hadn't done as well with his presentation. But in the end, he got 70%. And Josh Brisset just came off like a blustering asshole, which is maybe not in touch with Ward 8. Maybe I don't think Ward 8 is into blustering, like hyper masculine assholes. And I don't say that as like an epithet, but like he's very like testosterone, high testosterone style presentation, hyper masculine, kind of blustery. Though he did have a nice moment where he complimented Soren Stevenson for his work with the homeless community. Josh, do you have anything to say?
I think it's also a very well-run convention, especially in contrast to some other conventions. We didn't have any credentials issues, no rules fights. Just had a nice, smooth convention where we heard from the candidates. People voted. We endorsed the candidate, and then people got to go enjoy what was left of the May Day celebrations.
At the beginning, Brisset got caught in the like, I'm the only true DFLer here, or I'm the only true DFL candidate here, in response to the question about like, will you suspend your campaign if someone else is endorsed? He got booed.
Will you suspend your campaign if someone other than you is endorsed by this convention? A yes or no answer only, and we will start with Soren Stevenson.
Yes.
Considering I'm the only true DFL candidate,
That was a no.
Just never quite recovered from that. Came off as kind of a dick. On the topic of people not being in touch with their ward, besides questionnaire answer about not supporting any additional renter protections, like he got caught up with that. Soren Stevenson pointed that out during the Q&A. But it's a weird position to take, not supporting additional renter protections in Ward 8. That does not play very well. He's struggling with that one.
Yeah, Ward 8 voted in favor of question 3, as I recall. So
The rent stabilization thing?
Yep.
There was a point where Josh Basset came like rushing down the aisle and looking up to who I'm told was Julius Hernandez. Who is that? Is that like a Victor Martinez person?
Yes.
He did work on the Victor Martinez campaign, Don Samuel's campaign as well, probably others.
Elliot Engen for state rep, a Republican.
I don't like that we're the Victor Martinez extended universe is branching out into other words. I don't know that like people who supported a Trumper for city council, you would want to be affiliated with them. In Ward 8 particularly, or Ward 12. I hear there's another Victor Martinez person.
Yeah, apparently I was told at the Ward 12 convention that his brother Joel is the shadow campaign manager or actual campaign manager for Becca Thompson. But when she was questioned on it, about a delegate asked, like, how can I get in touch with you if I like want to like coordinate something? She referred the delegate to Joel, said, but I've been advised not to put his name anywhere because, clearly the taint of Victor Martinez associations will never leave you. So yeah, that was a kind of eye-opening event, and other people had apparently, following the Ward 12 forum, asked her point blank who her campaign manager was, and she told them that she was advised not to say.
I understand, like, it's hard to get good help, and you're pretty much stuck with whoever's, like, energized enough about your campaign to volunteer. Like, it's a real red flag, some of the people who are involved in these campaigns. I would turn it down. I think I would turn down the support of anyone affiliated with Victor Martinez.
I think it's a bad sign if, like, not even like a public interview, but like one-on-one conversations, you're embarrassed to tell people who your campaign manager is. Like, that feels like a bad sign.
It's a gotcha question, Josh. That is a gotcha question. Soren looks really good. I was thinking maybe this is competitive. Maybe Josh Basset is a plausible challenger here. Another thing I was reminded of recently is that Josh Basset started as a mayoral candidate.
Correct.
That is a red flag.
Running for mayor.
When you start the process not knowing what office you want to run for and switch from mayor to city council, like that, I like candidates who know what they're doing and like don't switch offices midstream. That's a sign that you're not prepared. You haven't thought this out, and it's maybe showing a little bit in the kind of campaign he's running. When John says Soren Stevenson looks really good, can we put up a picture of him as Stone Cold Steve Austin? Yes, we can. We will do that. Soren Stevenson looks really good. His muscles are bursting out of his cut-off T-shirt. Looks really good.
I think the theory was that Josh Basset switched from mayor to Ward 8 when Jenkins decided not to run.
Probably, yeah.
Seems like a plausible theory. He did announce before Jenkins formally said that she was dropping out, but he may have heard some rumors or gotten tipped off. We don't know.
those are like in different universes. The kind of effort you have to put in if you're going to run a real mayoral campaign is like light years beyond what you have to put into a city council campaign. I don't think he knows what he's doing.
Having worked on both campaigns, I could confirm, John.
Currently working on both campaigns, you can confirm.
He's not a terrible performer. He did better at the Ward 8 forum that I went to. So it's time to cue up the North Korea anthem again, because Becca Thompson in Ward 12 had some North Korea numbers run up against her by Maureen Chowdhury, the incumbent, which I expected. All of us here saw that coming from a mile away, but apparently the mayor's packs were just... This is who we got in Ward 12. I guess we'll put her photo up on our website and embarrass ourselves for the rest of eternity.
Yeah. Where does this rank compared to Star Tribune endorsing Mickey Moore?
We are one major Becca gaffe away from Becca taking the top spot at the Minneapolis Clown Candidate Hall of Fame from Mickey Moore, I think. That's a tough act to upstage, but Becca is really bad. Her convention eve pitch was, I'm not popular because I don't have enough melanin. I am too white to be popular in Ward 12, is what she was saying, and had to apologize in an email and at the convention because she said something really stupid and racist the day before.
Somebody on her team, on their side of things, must have talked to her, because I've never seen her apologize for anything before.
And it's not an accidental racism. It's like, this is how she thinks. This is her worldview. I'm too white to be popular in this world. It is DEI stuff. It's MAGA stuff.
Yeah, and to bring us into the Ward 12 convention itself, when she was allowed to give her speech, she had to acknowledge that and issue an apology to all of the delegates who were in attendance. And many of the delegates had no idea what she was talking about. So all of a sudden they were like, wait, you said what now? And I think, there were some people, she had family there who introduced her. Somebody who nominated her called her his neighbor, which was kind of funny.
Were they a delegate?
Yes. And people were like, oh, someone check his credentials. But yeah, then she had to go up and acknowledge this thing that she said and insist that that wasn't a reflection of her as a person, and that that's not the values that she brings, which, like, there's plenty of evidence to show that that is who she is as a person, and that those are the values she brings. But to John's point, she was swiftly, efficiently swept away by the Maureen Chowdhury popularity. Maureen received about 81% of the vote. Becca got 19%. I think 61 votes or something, 61 delegates for Becca, which is embarrassing for those people. I also had Carol Becker huffing and puffing next to me for a good portion of the convention. She muttered a lot of things under her breath. She called Maureen a liar many times. She was the only vote against the convention chair and parliamentarian. It was just a stellar Carol performance that was only dimmed by the fact that when she would say these things, she would often look at me to see if I was noticing.
She wanted you to notice her. She wanted to have you analyze her performance on the Wedge Live podcast, I think.
Yeah, and many people at the Ward 12 convention were huge Wedge Live fans. I've never been approached by so many people asking about the podcast or thanking me for posting about their convention. Even before I arrived, I'm told people were asking when John Wedge was going to show up. And somebody approached me at the end of the convention and and kind of sheepishly asked if I was John Edwards. And when I said no, he rightfully looked disappointed. But, you know, I think it's a huge sign of how popular you are in that southeast corner of the city.
It's true. Ward 12 loves me, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there to be with you, because those are my people. And I'm sorry we sent, pundit meat in a tube, in a tubular casing to be with you, because that's not healthy. That might give you cancer, and it's substandard punditry. It's below what you've come to expect from John Wedge.
Yeah, I'm loaded with nitrates.
We talked about how beloved I am in Ward 12. So that's
maybe the
most
only
important
person
thing
more
to talk
beloved than
about.
Oreen.
right. Yeah, I could be her vice council member. I think I could run for that. We have Ward 13 coming up. Hot Dog, you went to so many conventions.
Yeah.
And it seems like we're going to you for the most analysis here.
I've spent so many hours, probably only behind Josh, in terms of actual hours spent at conventions. Before we get into Ward 13, I wanted to float an idea past you two. Taylor and I have been discussing whether or not we could create a fake at-large city council seat to encourage all of the crank candidates to run for, and just sort of keep them sectioned off from the rest of the people who are trying to run actual campaigns.
I think
do you think that would
plausible?
work?
I think you could fool some of these candidates. The problem is Minnesota's top strategist and top organizer, Joe and Nico, they would probably figure it out, and they would let them know that it was a trap. Don't fall for it.
Joe would come bursting into our pretend convention that we would have Viviana set up for us.
They'd be chirping from the rafters like, this is so unfair. Stop this right now.
Yep. Joe would be using whatever stimulants he could find to beat these socialists.
The Joe Radinovich cocaine meme from the Righteous Gemstones is really taking off. People love that. Lord, bless this cocaine as I fight off these demons.
To give me the
DSA
gas to beat
demons.
this demon.
Let's get to Ward 13 before this.
So Ward 13 was by far the shortest convention I've ever attended. Came in at exactly 45 minutes. So still twice the length of Elliot Payne's previous North Korea-style dismantling of nobody. But Lene Palmisano ran unopposed. So the process moved so quickly that she was caught in the bathroom when they announced that she had been endorsed by acclamation. So she had to run down the aisle of the auditorium, and the first thing she said into the microphone was, well, that's never happened to me before, being endorsed in the bathroom and then trying to zip up.
We all wish we could have been there with you, Larry. That's quite a moment. It's only captured for posterity because you were there. This is the importance of the First Amendment and a free press in this country, is so that Hot Dog Larry can go to Ward 13 and just copy that down and post it so that we will always remember that happened.
Yeah, you won't find that sort of reporting in the Hill and Lake Press.
Well, congratulations to my friend Lene Palmisano for her endorsement in Ward 13. So, Taylor, Ward 7 is coming up. That's this upcoming Saturday. Am I right about that?
Yes. Yep. Right.
You don't seem excited about that.
I'm dreading it. It's very, apparently it's just a lot. I don't know. I'm hopeful we can block the endorsement. I think that's kind of the goal right now, blocking. Which is, it's Ward 7. That's ideal. Like Katie Cashman, that was also like a goal, like a win in 2023 that it was blocked. So that's the goal. There's going to be so much We Love Minneapolis money and attention here. I'm not liking Schaefer. what she, everything around her, a lot of the things you're hearing. So I think it's just going to be a horrible day.
Mike Norton wrote a thing in the Hill and Lake Press where he's like, Elizabeth Schaefer, she's a Republican, right? And Elizabeth Schaefer was given the opportunity to write a rebuttal in the same issue, and they're going back and forth.
Yeah, it was a big week for back and forth in the opinion sections of local newspapers. Want to shout out Josh successfully rebutting Charlie Ryback not once but twice in two separate publications.
I was thinking like I should ask Charlie Ryback to come on and talk about it with me, because I think I don't share all of Josh's opinions probably. No. But I believe caucuses and conventions are legitimately awful and a scourge, but also the people who want to get rid of them, like they have nothing to replace them with.
I think that would be a fascinating piece to write, John. Caucuses and conventions are terrible, and here's why we need to keep them.
It's true, because how else are you going to get people energized and organizing in the spring and summer talking about local politics, which I think is important? It would just get lost in the shuffle. And like primary day, thinking about an alternative where we have a primary day would come around in like August or September, and people would be like, city council elections, what's that? Who are these people? I just feel like it's really important to create this buzz and energy early in the year, get people thinking about it, give candidates a chance to like hone and refine their message. It's an opportunity for like lesser funded campaigns to like with a smaller audience, make a dent, make a name for themselves. And I think it's benefiting in 7 and 10. I think it's benefiting the We Heart Minneapolis candidates, because they did fairly well against some incumbents. Like I think it's an opportunity for non-incumbents to make a name for themselves.
Yeah, I think if you want the opportunity to give a very small group an outsized voice, the caucus system is great, and that can be used to ends that are progressive, that can be used to ends that are regressive. But I think that when people who are very fervent supporters of the caucus and convention system point to what's good about it, I think that is the main thing, is that it gives a small group of people, if they are well organized and put their efforts together, to really be able to make an outsized contribution to the political system. And certainly, as to your point, John, that can be good or that can be bad, depending on how you look at it and depending on who you favor and things like that. But it is important to say that people who have fewer resources, maybe their strength lies in their ability to connect with their neighbors and organize, but their neighbors don't have a lot of money to give and things like that, to still reward that sort of organization and community building.
So coming up, I'm curious about Ward 9. When is Ward 9, Josh?
May 31st.
Okay, and is that same day as Ward 10?
Yes, May 31st is Wards 9, 10, and 11.
Marcus Jones, is that his name?
Correct.
Yes.
He's got real clunker potential. He's the firefighter who plagiarized portions of his website, who has not voted in any election his entire life, despite being eligible since 2016. Real clunker potential in Ward 9. And I have no idea how it's going to go, but...
Yeah, and he hired his first campaign manager. I don't know if he's first, but at one point, one of his campaign managers was Will Orfield, who is Myron Orfield's son. And I guess the whole Orfield, like a bunch of Orfields, were at the Ward 9 convention, which I feel like that's a really not a place for, like, sending Southwest people to the wrong parts of the city. I'm just like, why not?
You got to take who you can get, Taylor. Whoever is nice to you, you got to be nice to them and take them on your campaign, whoever they are. No background checks.
Yeah, I think that was mentioned in the book of Exodus in the Bible, a plague of Orfields.
Yeah, the Bible says whoever is nice to you, you must be nice to them, no matter what they have done. Josh, we also have the city convention coming up.
We sure do.
What do we have to look forward to at the city convention?
Oh, it's going to be a great time, but we haven't had an in-person city convention for mayor and park board since 2017 because there was the whole pandemic thing that happened. I wasn't really involved in Minneapolis politics back in 2017, but I hear it was an interesting time from the people who were involved in Minneapolis politics back then. So it should be an interesting time here as well. We still have 5 candidates seeking the DFL endorsement for mayor. Mayor Jacob Fry, Omar Fateh, who is I am the treasurer for full disclosure, Dwayne Davis, Jazz Hampton, and Brenda Short. Emily Koski was running, but dropped out shortly after caucuses.
I wish we could exclude Brenda Short from the mayoral forums. I really just wish we could. I wish we could do that. That's the bar that I'm setting. We have to exclude Brenda Short from she's the one who fired her campaign manager in the newspaper. At one forum, she was spreading conspiracy theories about how her other campaign manager was working against her. We should, for the sake of Brenda Short, please exclude her from future mayoral forums, please.
Well, I have bad news for you because she's invited to the one happening later this month.
Oh. Let's get some standards. I feel like more progressive groups should be holding mayoral forums. I feel like everyone I go to, it's like, maybe not everyone. I've been to a good one in Ward 8, but it feels slanted. It feels like the audience is full of cranks and angry people.
Well, that's why let's promote this one so that it isn't all just cranks showing up to this one. So this one coming up is, let me pull it up for everybody. So it is May 15th. That's a Thursday, 6 p.m. I don't know which park building this is, but 2401 East Minnehaha. I think it's like the Lake Nokomis Park building.
Okay. Everyone get out and watch a mayoral forum. Do we have anything? Oh, we lost a Minneapolis DFL chair. Do I have any music for that? Like an in memoriam song? I don't know if I have any music for that.
Oh, the Sarah McLachlan song?
I feel like I'm unprepared to offer a eulogy, but...
Well, it really falls to you to eulogize Conrad. Just weeks ago, you were making fun of him on this very podcast.
I know, I feel responsible. Like maybe I put him in a bad headspace. Yeah, we lost a Minneapolis DFL chair. Was it last week? Somebody threatened to sue him because he was going to move the Ward 2 convention to the wrong day. It was going to exclude students. He didn't know what to do. I don't think he could handle the pressure. I think it's a bad thing to exclude students. And I told him that he probably should have left it on that day. God, this is loud. But we had some good times with Conrad Zbikowski, a former Minneapolis DFL chair. We made fun of him on this podcast quite a bit. He was a good sport about it. I don't know who is replacing him, Josh.
So under the DFL rules, the vice chair, Allie Gilbert, is Minneapolis DFL chair now. I think it's unclear at this time whether that will be permanent. There's a lot of folks at Minneapolis DFL now discussing kind of transition plans, and Allie will have to decide whether she wants to continue in that role. It's certainly a very big job, and I think Allie's a student right now, so.
So what Conrad told me is he didn't want to get sued. He didn't like getting sued, and that's why he resigned. But if you're going to be Minneapolis DFL chair, you're going to get sued. It's going to happen eventually. You got to have a thick skin. You're going to have a lawyer on retainer. That's just the world we live in. Taylor, do you have words about Conrad?
Josh, under the line of succession, if Allie isn't interested, who does it fall to?
under the line of succession, if Allie Gilbert were to resign, then the outreach and inclusion officer is next, however, only on a temporary basis. And I think there are discussions ongoing of how the timing of things would occur. So it might be, ultimately, if Allie does not want to do it, there will have to be an election for chair and vice chair.
Here we are talking about logistics of who the next one is going to be. We haven't even properly said goodbye to Conrad.
His body is still warm, and
right, he's
you're
still
already
posting,
talking about the
he's
line
still
of
posting
success.
graphics as if he is the shadow Minneapolis DFL chair. Why did you give it up, Conrad? You clearly loved making graphics announcing endorsements, and now
Graphic design was his passion.
I think you could have survived it. This is why I don't make rash decisions. Just because somebody sends you a text, I'm going to sue you. It's like, are you really going to sue me? I don't think you're going to sue me. Dude, call their bluff. That's what I say. Because Conrad, you clearly love this stuff. Think of all the fun you could have had.
Yeah, I will say that Conrad and I have had our disagreements. We have not always agreed on the way that the Minneapolis DFL should be run, on some of the decisions that he made in that role. But I will say that I have never seen in all of my years anyone who was clearly in love with being the chair of the Minneapolis DFL as much as Conrad.
That's what makes this so sad.
Yeah, and I do agree that, you know, when you are doing a volunteer job for no thanks and legal threats, it's very tempting to throw your hands up and walk away, especially when, you know, people who you maybe think are supposed to be on your side and have your back are not behind you. But I also think that, to your point, John, is important to take into account when you run for one of these positions, that it's not always going to be making exciting graphics about people being endorsed and scanning Josh Martin's Google Docs for exciting data to share. Sometimes there will be hard times.
It's going to be miserable. I feel like, didn't Brianna, when she left, talk about how awful it was and how it destroyed her life? Like,
yep.
This is what you're signing up for. Fist fights all around you. You're going to catch some fists right in the face when you do that.
Yeah.
This has been the Wedge Live podcast. Thank you for joining us for this Minneapolis DFL convention season halftime show. Thank you to Taylor. Thank you to Hot Dog Larry. Thank you to Josh Martin. And I'm your host, John Edwards. Thank you for listening.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.